So I'm excited to say that I've been playing Battlefield 6 for over a week now, thanks to EA. A massive shout out to those guys for allowing us early access to get some content ready for you guys. And let's just say there is a hell of a lot of content on the way over this opening weekend and obviously beyond that. And we're starting off today with my first impressions, kind of a review in progress when it comes to Battlefield 6. Now it's worth noting that in this video specifically, we're exclusively talking about the multiplayer of the game. I do have a campaign review that's going to be spoiler free, coming out in an hour from this video going live. So for a lot of you, that video is probably already out and we haven't really had a chance to play Portal just yet. So like I said, today we are just talking multiplayer, but there will be content on those other aspects of the game over the next few days and weeks. Now, getting stuck into, I guess, my overall initial thoughts before we dive deeper into each of the different aspects. Realistically, my first impressions of Battlefield 6 are pretty much the same as what we got in the beta, and I mean that in a very good way. All I really need to say there is that if you guys did enjoy the beta, if you had a bunch of playtime over those 2 weekends and you enjoyed it, I am pretty confident you are going to enjoy the full game because it is much the same as what we got in that beta, obviously with just a bit more content. It does feel a little bit more stable and there are some small little changes and stuff, but realistically, what you played in the beta, that is just what to expect in the full game. Now, in my playtime so far, and just for a bit of context, we've probably played, I don't know, anywhere from 25 to 30-ish hours over this last week, as well as then I've also played the campaign, which took me around 5 or so hours. And so in that 30 to 35 hours of total playtime, I haven't noticed any sort of glaring new issues that weren't there in the beta. For example, I don't really notice any performance problems. There's no like new bugs that I've seen. I haven't really noticed anything that has been a glaring issue. Some of the tiny issues I've seen are stuff like, for example, the bots, whenever they do happen to be in your multiplayer game, they're not the smartest still. Like, there's still some little issues there. So obviously the game isn't flawless by any means, but realistically, when it comes to new issues in terms of things that weren't in the beta and now, oh my god, there's a new big problem, I haven't really noticed anything like that. So if you're concerned about like performance issues, any new bugs or anything like that, I wouldn't be too concerned. At least in my own playtime, I haven't really noticed anything. The performance side of it is kind of hard to talk about because obviously everyone, at least if you're on PC, everyone's rig is a little bit different. So some people will no doubt still have some performance issues, but at least on my end, I haven't really noticed anything glaring. I feel pretty confident in saying that this is the best position that any Battlefield game has ever launched in. And not just by a little bit, I think by quite a margin, honestly. The closest that I have ever experienced is probably Battlefield 1, which launched in a really good state. But when you look at games like 2042, even Battlefield 5, and even going back to the OGs like Battlefield 3 and 4, that I think that's where a lot of people started. For me, it was actually Bad Company 2. But even all of those games, they did have pretty rough launches. Battlefield 3's was kind of a little bit better than the others, but Battlefield 4, for example, which is kind of seen as one of the best Battlefield games ever, that launch was absolutely atrocious. And so I do feel pretty confident in saying that I think this is going to be the best Battlefield launch of all time. That doesn't confirm it's going to be the best Battlefield game of all time, but in terms of the stability and smoothness of launch, I'm pretty confident in saying this is easily the best we've ever seen. Now we're going to move on to a few specific areas. I'm going to run you guys through all of the new maps that we haven't experienced in the beta. I'm going to talk about progression as well, because there's actually quite a lot to talk about there. And then lastly, I'll touch on some of the new weapons, as well as just some little changes from the beta as well. Now, starting off with those new maps, obviously, all of the new maps that weren't available in the beta are Mirak Valley, Operation Firestorm, Saints Quarter, Manhattan Bridge, and New Sobek City. Now, there's already been a bit of content, obviously, on Mirak Valley and Operation Firestorm, so I don't really need to say too much about those 2 maps. We got to preview those a couple of weeks ago now, and so if you're interested in more details on both of those, go and check out this video where I gave my first impressions. But all you really need to know, the quick summary, is that obviously Operation Firestorm is absolutely goated. We all know that that map is amazing, and Mirak Valley I actually really like as well. I think it's one of the better maps in the game, honestly. So yeah, for those 2 maps, there's really not too much to talk about just because we've already sort of shown those off. As for the 3 maps that haven't really been seen at all yet, these are Saints Quarter, Manhattan Bridge, and New Sobek City. Now, firstly, with Saints Quarter, I can't really talk about this one too much because I've actually only played, I think, 2 matches on Saints Quarter, and both of them were in the smaller modes, like Team Deathmatch and Domination and stuff. I haven't played Saints Quarter on Conquest or Breakthrough or anything like that, so I can't really speak about it too much. But what I did experience in Team Deathmatch and stuff, it felt really good. It looks really nice too. It's probably one of the nicest looking maps in the game, and it is very, very close quarters. So if you guys enjoy the maps like, for example, Siege of Cairo or even Empire State, then I think you're definitely going to like Saints Quarter. It's a very close quarters, almost more of like a Call of Duty-esque map, at least obviously the small version, but it did play really well, and the destruction on that map was also really good. Now, if you guys want to see a full match as well, in around 2 hours from this video going live too, I do have an actual live commentary that I'll be uploading just to show off the new map to you guys, because that's actually the only one we haven't seen any gameplay on at all. And so keep your eyes peeled for that on the channel as well. Now, moving on to Manhattan Bridge. I won't lie to you guys, I went into this one not expecting to like it, because of all the maps in this game, Empire State to me is by far my least favorite. I actually would go as far as saying I do not like that map. I like pretty much all of the other maps in the game, but I thoroughly do not enjoy Empire State. I'm not really too sure what it is about it, but there's something about that map I just don't like. And so when I loaded into the first map on Manhattan Bridge, I kind of thought, all right, another New York map here. I'm probably not going to like this one. And boy, was I wrong. I actually think this is probably potentially in my top 3 favorite maps in the game. I've had some really, really fun games on this map where they were absolutely chaotic, but they weren't too chaotic to where it's annoying, and they were all really tightly contested as well. It feels like that type of map that's going to result in a lot of like sort of clutch moments and really close games. And so I have a lot of praise for this map. I think it has kind of surprised me, because I don't know, I think it was just because it was also New York. I simply just thought it was going to be shit because I don't like Empire State. But like I said, I was very wrong on that, at least for me. I'm sure some people might not enjoy it, but yeah, I actually really, really like Manhattan Bridge. Lastly, we then have New Sobek City, which I believe is the second biggest in the game. I could be wrong on that, but it definitely feels like it anyway. And as for this one, I also do really enjoy New Sobek City. It's got a lot of different areas. There are some areas that are like really, really close quarters. There are some that are much more wide open. It seems like a decent enough map for vehicles as well. I've had some games where I was playing with the boys and we actually jumped in 2 different choppers and pretty much just controlled the entire game from the skies. And so this map feels like it's going to have a good little mix of sort of every playstyle, which I like in a map. I think that's the best way to do it. It might not be necessarily my favorite map. It's probably more in the middle of the rankings if I had to actually rank them in order, but that doesn't mean they're bad, because like I said, the only one I don't actually like is probably Empire State. The rest of them I do actually really like. So New Sobek City, at least to me, seems like another really solid map, and for me, they've pretty much hit 8 out of 9 maps as maps that I really enjoy. So hopefully that gives you guys a good idea of these new maps, and obviously as you're watching this, it's not too long until you guys can jump in as well. Now, before we go any further, if you guys are interested in more Battlefield 6 content and you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. There is so much content on the way. I've been working away for the last pretty much 10 days now since we've had hands-on with the game. Like I said, there are literally 3 videos coming in the next 2 hours, and they'll probably be daily uploads for as long as I can manage it, as well as a lot of shorts content and stuff like that. I will also be streaming when the game actually goes live tomorrow, so keep your eyes peeled for that, and be sure to turn on those notifications so that you guys don't miss out. Now, moving on to the progression of the game, and this is actually a pretty big talking point. It's not something I would normally spend too much time talking about, but there is actually a lot to cover when it comes to the progression. First and foremost, I want to say that it actually seems to be fairly slow to actually level up, unlock all of your weapons, especially when it comes to the weapon mastery as well. That feels like it takes quite some time to actually level up all of your weapons, but I kind of mean that in a good way. Now, I think some people will really dislike this. I think some people will love it. For me, I'm sort of in the middle. I don't hate it when it's quick, but I also think it adds a lot more sort of replayability when it does take a little bit longer to level up. And so overall, I think this is probably a good thing. Now, it's not stupidly slow, so don't worry. It's not like it's going to take you like 6 months to get to level 50. It's not that bad. As of recording this, I'm already like level 30 in about a week of playtime, so it's not that slow, but I do still think a lot of people are going to really sort of complain about it, and it's going to be interesting to see whether they actually change it or not. But like I said, I think it's kind of a good thing. I think in some shooters, you can actually unlock most of the stuff in like the first weekend, and to me, that does actually take away the urge to play over time, because, you know, in a week after launch, you've got every single thing unlocked, and then it's almost like, what am I actually playing for other than to just run around shooting people. For me, I do actually like having something to grind for, and that does keep me invested in the game. And I think probably most people as well, which is also a smart business decision from them. We want people to play this game for a long time. And so, like I said, I think it's a pretty decent speed at which you do level up and stuff. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how people take it, because I can almost guarantee a lot of people are going to complain that it is just way too slow. Now, on top of the actual leveling up though, they've actually done it in a bit of a different way than how we've seen in the past. If you look at 2042, it was all essentially just tied to actual levels. So at say level 35, you would unlock X weapon. And then even with the tier 1 skins, if I remember correctly, it was like 1200 kills with that weapon to just get tier 1. There was no actual challenge to it. It was just an amount of kills in order to level up. It's pretty much the same thing, really. It's just an amount of XP you need to get. In Battlefield 6, it is a little bit different. So how it works is that up until level 23, you will just unlock weapons by the level that you get to. And I think there are still some things that are tied to levels after level 23 as well. But once you hit level 23, that will then unlock a whole new set of challenges where instead of unlocking the next weapon by just getting to like level 24, well, there is actually challenges to do. So you might get to 23, and then if you want to unlock the next assault rifle, you can see them all in the challenges tab, and it will say, for example, get 300 kills with this specific weapon or this specific weapon in order to unlock this next weapon in the chain. And there'll usually be like 2 different challenges. So one might be get X amount of kills in one game and then a total amount of kills. And once you unlock that weapon, you'll then unlock the ability to unlock the weapon after that, if that makes sense. So I actually really like the way they've done this, because it now does change things up. You're not just running into a game and trying to get as much XP as possible. There are actual intentional things you need to do. None of them are super hard, by the way, so don't be concerned this is going to be like get 500 headshots with a gun. It's nothing crazy. It's just going to change the way that you play a little bit. You're going to need to use certain weapons and certain gadgets and stuff, even certain classes, to unlock certain weapons. And to me, I really like that, because it's going to force me to actually use different stuff that I might not have used normally, and it takes it away from just being an XP grind. You do actually have to think about what you're doing, while none of it is hard either. So it's not like it's frustratingly challenging. It is just going to slightly change the way you play, and for me, I really enjoy the way they've done that. The same sort of thing goes for classes as well. So this isn't just for weapons. For example, with the recon class, if you want to unlock C4, it's not just like get to level 30. You actually have to get a challenge done, which I think was like spot 250 enemies on objectives, and then there's like another challenge to that as well. And again, that's not that hard. If you just sit up in a drone and spot people, you're going to get that done pretty quickly. But again, it just changes the way that you actually have to play. And to me, I personally really enjoy that, because I think it just takes away from the constant just get into a game, get as many kills as you can, sit on objectives, and the game ends. You actually have to think about what you're doing. And so I have to praise the team for actually doing it that way, because I think that is a little bit more intentional than just being unlocked by getting to certain levels. Now, as for some of the new weapons, I can't really speak too much about the new weapons, simply because obviously most of them are locked. So I can't just access every weapon from day one. Most of the weapons I've been using in this last week or so have been ones that I was using in the beta, simply because they are some of the earliest ones you can unlock. Now, to just mention some of the ones that I do really like though that weren't in the beta, the MP5 is one that I really like. It's not actually called the MP5 in this game, just like most weapons, but it is obviously the MP5. And yeah, this one feels really nice. It is pretty similar at the end of the day to the SGX, which was available in the beta, but it does feel a little bit different. And if you guys love the MP5 in other games, I'm sure you're going to love it in this game as well. There are also some of the other carbines and LMGs that also feel really nice too, and some of these weren't available in the beta. And so overall, from what I have experienced when it comes to the new weapons, it feels like there is a really good amount of variety. They all feel fairly different from each other. And yeah, the fact that we've got, I think there are meant to be 52 weapons at launch. When you compare that to Battlefield 2042, which I think had either 22 or 24, it's actually crazy to think that there are that many weapons in the game. And yeah, I think that in combination with the progression that I just talked about, I think that's all in a really good state in my opinion. Now, lastly, just for some very slight changes from the open beta weekends, we obviously know that the movement was changed. That was a very big talking point in the community. To me, it feels completely fine. I don't think it's really noticeable to most people. I can definitely notice a few areas. I think like the weapon spread is a little bit more when you're strafing, for example, and stuff like that. But personally, it feels fine to me. Nothing has felt clunky or anything. I think people were just really freaking out about those changes. Now, one thing I do have a bit of an issue with is the assault class in general, essentially. Now, personally, I think the weapon sling is dumb. I thought it was a decent idea at first. On paper, it sounded fine, but I've come to the conclusion I just really don't like that. I hate when someone's using like an assault rifle and I might have like a shotgun, right? So I push them thinking if I get close, I'm going to win that gunfight. And what do you know? They just pull out a shotgun out their ass and all of a sudden I'm dead. It's going to be very frustrating after a couple of weeks of this, in my opinion. And so, yeah, I don't think they'll ever remove it, but I think if they could potentially limit what you can have with the sling. So I think personally, I think you shouldn't be able to have a shotgun in that sling. So if you've got a shotgun as your primary weapon, or maybe even as assault class, you probably can't have a shotgun unless you don't use the sling. Just something like that. I don't really know how they could go about it, but I think a shotgun in combination with assault rifles and stuff is a little bit overpowered, and I know that was available in the past. I know Battlefield 4 and stuff had that, but the shotguns in that game were nowhere near as OP as the shotgun in this game. They said they nerfed it. It still feels insanely overpowered to me personally, and yeah, I just think that the sling needs a bit of a tweak. And on top of that, I also think that the spawn beacon now being with assault is absolutely wild. They did that to kind of stop people sitting up on a hill with a sniper and having a spawn beacon, but it's open weapons, so you can still do that. I can also now have a shotgun in my back pocket, so I can do exactly what they didn't want me to do. And then if someone wants to try and push me and kill me and then take out the spawn beacon, well, enjoy my shotgun to the face. You're not going to get anywhere near me. So they've actually made that whole situation worse, where if people are going to sit on a hill with a spawn beacon, they're now pretty much indestructible because you can't even push them now. They've got a shotgun or an SMG, and yeah, I just find that to be completely wild, in my opinion. So I hope they revert that. I hope they put that back to the recon class. I think recon feels a little bit underpowered now, whereas assault, the ability to have a spawn beacon and multiple weapons is, I don't know, I just think is a little bit overpowered, where at the same time it actually borderline adds no help to the team. The spawn beacons are obviously helpful, but yeah, running around with two weapons doesn't really help the team that much. I think they should have something a little bit more team oriented, even if that is like having C4 where you can blow up tanks or something. Personally, I just think that class needs a little bit of a change, in my opinion. But overall, to kind of summarize my thoughts and my first impressions on Battlefield 6, again, obviously just talking about the multiplayer, I am really happy with the state of the game as it is right now. There are things to chop and change, of course. There are things to improve. It's not flawless, but I think the foundations of this game are insanely good, especially comparing it to previous Battlefield launches. I do genuinely think that we are in for an all-timer Battlefield, in my opinion. Not necessarily saying it's going to be the GOAT, but I do honestly think if they can just stick the landing and the post-launch content is really good and we get content for years to come, I don't see any reality in which this isn't, you know, a top 3 or 4 best Battlefield ever, because it feels really good right now, and there's no doubt they will improve it over time, as well as obviously adding a lot more content as well. But I'm keen to hear all of your thoughts based on everything that I've said and how you think the game looks as well, so be sure to leave a comment down below. And like I said, keep your eyes peeled for so much more content on the way. There are literally 3 videos today. There's another one tomorrow, another one the day after that, as well as a big live stream tomorrow as well. So keep your eyes peeled for all of that content. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there on the battlefield.